Welcome you to the Conversations and Coffee. I'm Ellen O'Shaughnessy, coordinator of the Conversations and Coffee program. Today, we have with us one of the Cultural Arts Center's faculty, Sharone Putter, whose art was in the main gallery this summer entitled the WORKSCAPES collection, a series of lithographs, mixed media drawings shared with the late Philip Sorensen's exhibit, Wall, Lumber, Stone. Sharone acquired her rich palette of art making during her many years of travel abroad. She studied philosophy and art history at Hebrew University in Jerusalem, Israel, porcelain restoration in Dublin, Ireland, drawing in Morocco, and glass lamp working in Czech Republic. When Sharone returned to the United States, she studied glass sculpture and digital printmaking in New York College of Ceramics at Alfred University, New York, where she graduated first in her class. Sharone finds her art inspiration in those things surrounding her on her journey. Her laborious art process revisits these everyday fleeting scenes, showing her, kind of slowing her down to further appreciate that which is mundane and ordinary. Viewers of her artwork note that it's changed their perspective too. At the Cultural Arts Center, Sharone instructs us in drawing, printmaking, enameling, jewelry, work with metals. She fosters creativity and mentors her students in achieving their creative goals. As an art instructor, Sharone has taught as a teaching assistant at the Institute for the Electronic Art at Alfred University, New York, a visiting artist at CCAD Printmaking in Columbus, art instructor at Lakeside, Chautauqua, Ohio, taught Zoom art during the pandemic. Her current exhibition is at the Central Ohio Artist Pandemic Art, a group exhibition curated by Susan Schubert and Virginia Jennison, who were Sharone's former students. The exhibition is at the Columbus Historical Society through October 3rd. Upcoming projects include the Scioto River, a collaboration with Rand Berdeshevsky of the Enameled Art Commission and Reese Brother Productions for the Hilton International Hotel in Columbus, Ohio, February 2022, and The River for July 2022 in Textures and Brass, also with Rand for the Hilton International Hotel. Sharone will be an exhibiting artist with artists curated by Michael Reese entitled Letters from Cuba in March of 22. She will have a solo exhibition at the Concourse Gallery in Upper Arlington, June to August of 2022. Sharone Putter, we are so honored to share you with the arts community and delighted you're so much a part of the community of the Cultural Arts Center. Your students love you.
Thank you.
Hear that often. So let us share your beautiful works.
So this particular print is now in Honolulu, and it's in the collection of Jack Cleary. And he, I don't know if you know the scene, but this is on Henderson Road, and he purchased this particular print because it reminded him of home. He's from Columbus. And on this one, I collaborated with Ron Berdichevsky, my husband. He always has ideas on how to change and improve the prints that I do. And I just wanted to say that this is quite large. I don't know if you can see. I would say it's around 30 inches by 28. I don't have the image sizes here, but yeah, he sent a picture, which was very nice. He sent a picture of how it looks in his home at the end of a hallway. And thank you, Jack. And he had seen it in the airport, which was one of the experiences that I had in the past. It was curated by the Ohio Art League. They have a gallery in the airport. So if any artists are tuning in, this is a great opportunity to share your artwork. I totally suggest to become as I always tell my students, the first stop is to become a member with the Ohio Art League, because there are so many opportunities to show work with them. Mm-hmm. So this is a mixed media artwork. The water towers were created using this metal here, a piece of metal. I drew on, and then I inked it up, and I cut out the shapes, and I pressed it into a special paper that it really can take a lot. You know, I work my paper hard. Yes. So once it's inked up and cut out, I ink up a plate behind the water plates as well to represent the sky. And then I lay these on top, and any other areas that I want with ink, and it wet the paper, and I press it through a printmaking press. And then any additions, any changes happen after that. It could happen over time. Sometimes I'll look at a print and I'll say, oh, this needs something else. This needs to change. And luckily, during the pandemic, I had a few prints that I hadn't decided where they're going yet. And I used them to enhance my Workscapes series in a very new way. I hope, I'll mention that when we get to these particular images that were inspired by old prints that I recycled into new creations. Thank you, Lindsay. Any questions?
I just wonder, coming, let's say, is that the sun, and coming toward the sun is that what is that up in the right?
That you'll have to ask my husband. He added that.
Delightful.
Yes, it seemed he had a story he wanted to tell here. There are 3 little images down in the corner looking up at this rocket or whatever it is at the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think that he also leaves room for the imagination of the viewer to to tell their own story.
Yes.
As you see, I don't go into a lot of detail I like to leave areas wide open, and I hope that will entice the viewer into the print to feel that they can take part in the conversation happening.
Well, it's beautiful how your husband felt free to get as part of the conversation, huh? He added a wonderful
I agree.
Draw into, yeah.
I don't always accept his changes. There was one print that I wasn't sure at all. And but mostly I trust his intuition. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful.
So what I think I need to talk about is a little bit about the Workscape series and how it came about. This one, for example, was I was walking down the road. I was I think it was in Dublin, in the new area there, and they were still building. And I just get really excited about these shapes, about the colors of the construction, about the movement, about perhaps the possibilities, of what they might be doing. And in this particular one, it was that ball, the weight for the crane. And later on it evolved. If you look carefully at this print, you'll see that there is a person that potentially could be at the end of the crane or the derrick. And I think that was something that just happened in the process. So a lot of these prints are just from observation of scenes and events by the side of the road, scenes that would be normally not thought of as interesting landscape. I hope people will, when they view my prints, find a new way of looking at things. Excuse the train. We're gonna have a very loud sound in a minute when the train goes by, but that's where I live. And we are visiting my home studio, so that's how things go. We have a train right outdoor. And then I learned things about these scenes. For example, in this one, I was talking to one of the workers of the cranes, and he told me that the ball is called the headache ball. And this particular print was in an exhibition that was curated by Stephanie Ron, and it was for the library, the Metropolitan Library. It was for educators. And I just was thinking of actually my son's experience with education. And he, when I did this print, and he, because of the name, because of the headache ball, he used to have headaches when he was at school. And it was interesting to see how some teachers could, relate to that. How many teachers could relate to that, the headache during work and some did not. And so I think, when I was doing this, he's the person that saw that person, that he saw the figure up there at the edge of the crane. So I thought it was, I emphasized it for him. He thought that he saw the figure, and I hadn't seen it at the beginning. And can you see it? Ellen, do you see the figure up there?
Yeah. Oh, well.
Does it look like a person?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people don't really see it.
Oh, I see it, and I'm just saying, how is this person suspended? My imagination's figuring out the rest of his appendage there to get up there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
He's like,
the story. Yeah.
The work. Yeah.
So this is where I, as the artist, I'm inviting you in to think about it, to figure out, what's happening here, maybe to engage a little bit more than we do with what's happening by the side of the road. So maybe next time you see one of these cranes or one of these headache balls, then maybe you'll find some interest of your own or create some story of your own.
Yeah.
So that's what happened here. So
surrounding is nature too. In the midst of the work, there's beautiful nature.
In some, yes, there's thinking of the workscapes in general. They relate in a way, many of them, to an area where I grew up, and that was, I grew up by a field. It was a very large field. Now it's all built up with tall buildings, but there was an abandoned hospital there. And I used to walk in these fields. There really was nothing except for some brush and rabbits. So I used to take my dog out there. And it was these wide open spaces where it was my wild spaces. And in a way, these construction sites where they, where sometimes they have to demolish, and that's sad, they have to demolish the old to build the new. And so I find a lot of interest in how landscape changes. In the middle of the city, suddenly you have these wide open spaces.
Yes.
So it kind of relates to where I grew up. I've been thinking about it. There's so many elements that brought me to the place where I really pay attention to these work sites. And that's one of them. And the other was that I'm also a worker. For many years, I worked in outside, outdoors. And these workers, I mean, every day they're breathing the elements. They're having, they have to deal with things that we in our cars when we drive back don't.
Yes.
So I have that memory of working outdoors for years, and sometimes I envy them. Sometimes I envy them, and I wouldn't want to do it, now. I know now that I'm older, but those were interesting years, when you had to deal with whatever came your way.
Yeah.
So at this one, I was trying to add a little bit more color. And I think in the autumn, especially now, when you look at Workscapes, this is the best time because the skies are a little gray. I just did a print yesterday. I'm so happy. I think I caught that the grayness of the sky. And then you have these bursts of color. It could be the workers' clothes. It could be the parts, the tools they're using. It might be the safety, those barricades. I learned a new word. I gave an art talk to a nonprofit organization called Building Futures about 2 weeks ago. And it was wonderful because I could learn any questions I had. They knew. These are individuals that are learning the trade of construction. It's a wonderful 12-week program. And if you know anyone who's doesn't know what they're doing with their life and they're perhaps hesitating, it's they can really help you there to establish yourself in one of these trades of construction, and they even train you to be an electrician. I was thinking that maybe I would do a series within my Workscapes collection of individuals. So instead of that image up there of a random worker, perhaps I would do interviews with real people that are working out there in the field. So I connected with the head of the program, and she said she could put me in touch with people that have graduated from the program. And I had 6 people volunteering to take part from the group that I was giving the talk to. And so I think that would be wonderful to share the real stories, behind, to have the actual people, not just imagine my own story, but to really incorporate their story into this Workscapes collection. So I'm hoping I can find a way to pay them for their time because they are undeserved. They really have had, some of these people have had difficult lives, and they're trying to find a new path. And so my next step really in that direction is to look for funding so that I can actually interview them and pay them for the time, maybe visit the work sites where they're going, and to and perhaps have an exhibition of with a picture of them, I was thinking, and perhaps their story, and where they came from and where they're going. So that's something for 2022 or 2023. I think I'm a little busy right now. I also have an exhibition coming up in December. Yes. I hope you will join. You will come to the opening. There'll be more about it on my social media and on Facebook, and all these other. I have a Facebook page, Sharone Putter Art. I have an Instagram handle. It's Sharone Putter. And this exhibition is going to be in the Short North Gallery, in the Short North, sorry. It's in the Sarah Gormley Gallery in the Short North. And this is a new gallery. She has been there for about 2 years. And I had the pleasure of meeting her just recently. And she has 3 little prints of mine in her gallery right now. So thank you, Sarah. And I'm really looking forward to this exhibition. It's going to be a group exhibition with 4 other women. It works on paper. I don't have the exact dates. I don't have the exact information about it yet. But if you will follow me on Instagram or on Facebook, I'll let you know about that. I hope you can come to the opening. And Ellen, I hope, definitely hope you can come. That would be amazing if you could make that.
Well, let's see more of your work here, huh? Oh, great.
So these are, this one is called Up, Up, Up. And these are 3 cranes that I took pictures of. I uploaded them to the computer. I digitally manipulated them. Then I printed them out on a solar plate. So this is an etching, a solar plate etching. And then I added a little twist. I added these little pieces of paper that were a resist to the ink, so they can translate as clouds or someplace that I always try to leave someplace open. So that was that's not completely controlled in my prints. I was thinking about that the other day, is that in my artwork, you would assume that I have, I wouldn't, it's really the only place in life where I have complete control. I can decide what I'm doing with my artwork. I can decide what I'm doing with my hands, with the ink, but I often find myself trying not to take control. It's because when I take control, I don't let, how would you call it, the magic of art happen. So, yeah, this is...
So where in this do you feel magic? Where I feel magic, where do you feel magic?
When something happens that I don't expect, but it works.
Okay.
And what do I mean it works? It means that it portrays the, what we call the gesture of what the character of what I was trying to portray, to achieve, but in a way that that I didn't have complete control, that I felt that something intervened, and it could be, some mistake even that might happen.
Well,
this is the magic of that.
Tell us more about how that happened in this work.
I think the distribution of the ink, for example, wasn't as even as I had planned. I put the pieces of paper randomly, and they work. They kind of balance out these dark images. So we have a lot more contrast. We have light, dark, and middle tone. There are the 3 different viewpoints, really.
Yes.
I took 3 separate cranes looking up. Somehow I feel that that you get the feeling that you're looking at these 3 cranes, but you don't feel it's a mistake. They somehow work together. And this particular print is in the collection of Jim Wiggins and Rebecca Bailey. They sent me a picture of how it looks in their home. And this is something I ask all the people that purchase my artwork, please send me a picture, because I'd like to see where it is. And it was they kindly sent it to me the other day. So he decided to purchase this. He shared with me because he's always had this fascination himself with cranes. And this is so that's what I mean. These are 3 different cranes from 3 different work sites, and they just kind of work together. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Great. So, this one is in the collection of, the reason that I'm showing mostly images that have sold is because I like to see them again. So I'm sharing with you, and that not all of these have been purchased by construction companies, because someone had mentioned that maybe I should sell it to construction companies. I think that's a great idea. So if there are any construction people out there, I welcome your purchases. But I also think they could look good in a modern home, contemporary art. So this one is in the office of Jason Beeler, who has actually been at the Culture Arts Center. He's a choreographer, and he is also an actor, and he's also a lawyer. So he bought it for his office. He's a supporter of the arts. And this is called 2 Hooks. And again, the background is from one plate, and then on top, I layered a piece of metal that was inked up. And when I mean inked up is I use brayers, which are like these roller things that I roll the ink on there, or I etch into the metal with a tool, a sharp tool, and then I add ink and rub it away. So the surface on this one is quite smooth, and it's just the white of the paper, and the ink stays in those grooves. So I guess I look up a lot. That's what I realized, because almost all of my prints are, at least when I started this series, was just looking up and enjoying, the wide open space of the sky and these folks. Yeah. So I think this another thing that doesn't translate from the images on the computer is the textures. These are you can actually see the metal that's embossed into the paper. And yeah. This is, again, quite large. This is about, I would say, at least 28 inches by 24, perhaps. I'm not sure of the exact dimensions, but these are quite large, and they're framed. I frame them here at home with a generous grant from the Greater Columbus Art Council. I started out by receiving a grant, and I had them framed by the Archive Gallery, who Sarah is amazing. She's the owner of the Archive Gallery. It's just near in German Village, near the park there, and I think it's on Whittier. She's very creative in her framing and very helpful. And she taught me how to frame this year. That's been a new experience. So that connects me to how, in a way, this whole collection is a way of working that in some way ties back into construction, because now I'm really even constructing the frame. So I'm not only constructing the image from layering of these parts that I arrange and build the print from, but I'm also building the frames now. So that's another way of tying it back to the construction. So it's that physicality of creating the artwork. And I think in the physicality of the artwork, there's another element that comes in. It's all these scenes, they're kind of fleeting there by the side of the road. You just drive by, or sometimes you get stuck in traffic, but often, just drive by. And I stop and I take these scenes, and it gives me a kind of a sense of place, too, a sense of Columbus, a sense of what's happening now, right now. So it's a way of not maybe looking forward or looking back. It's a way of being present. So when I take these scenes and I spend some time with them, and that physicality of putting them together and taking all these different elements and deciding, what's going to be where, and then, how the paper is how it's all going to lay and how it's going to frame. It's a way of, for me, also of centering. It's a way of, feeling, it's not, I didn't let it fly by. I didn't let the time fly by. I stopped it for a second. I stopped it. I stopped it and took how would you say, a breath there, a few instead of just rushing by, because most of the days we're just rushing, So for me, our art is a way of stopping,
and it feels as though it's moving from the work. It's looking out at. I see a face in it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, there could be a face there. You're right.
Yeah. Hey, anybody else see that? A giraffe-like face coming. It's lovely how it blends, and then has a persona, as I said earlier about the leaves and the trees. There's something.
They take their own. They take their own life. They do it. They do at some point. I feel that they separate from my creation and they take on their own life. And that's a good thing. That's why when my husband decides to add, I've already distanced myself enough to let him add, fine. Because think of it, when an artist creates something, they don't know what frame the person who buys it is going to, they don't know what frame the new owner is going to put on there. By the way, if you do buy one of my prints and you don't enjoy the frame, that's fine. I won't be offended, but I do reuse them for shows. So I'll be happy to have them back. You can leave them at the Culture Arts Center if you bought them at the Culture Arts Center or any place else, and I will reuse them and give them new life. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, because when you're done, you're done. You know, even when you take the picture of by the time I take the picture of the artwork, I'm already distanced. It's the actual moment that I make it. Mm. So I know some artists have a hard time, you know, letting go of their artwork. It's their babies. I'm not like that. I'm looking forward to the next scene. That's how I work, or the next challenge. I often challenge myself with new techniques, as we'll see as we continue. Mm. So this is one of my latest prints. When I was, during the pandemic, I was at home a lot, and I didn't have all these workscapes by the side of the road. So I was just looking through, and some of my prints, and I was looking through what we have in the house that could inspire me, and I found these Matchbox trucks. They are from my husband's collection from when he was a kid. And I started drawing them. Oh. And then I thought, well, they would look good as enameled miniatures. So I have one here. So you can see the size in relation to myself. Can you see that? Because I don't see myself. Mm-hmm. And they're elaborately painted. So they add a focal point, I think, to the prints. And for my students who, well, a lot of my prints are pretty abstract, right? Kind of childlike in a way. And I was thinking that my students also probably don't know that I actually do know how to draw. So I thought it wouldn't help. It would help to show that because, you know, and these I really pay attention a little bit more to perspective. And, you know, they are challenging in that they're miniatures, and there's a lot of really detailed work in them. I really enjoyed that during the pandemic. I have an enameling kiln in my basement that I do this. Now, I want to thank Mike Kravitz. Mike Kravitz is one of my jewelry students, and I have been making brooches of these miniature enamels before the pandemic. And he had, at some point, collaborated with his wife, Susan Schubert, and on a painting of hers, and had added some bright, colorful elements onto one of her paintings. And I don't know if she commissioned it from him. And at some points, they were getting so big that I was like, oh, these are too big to be brooches. And so he said, why don't you put them in their prints? So I was like, oh, you're allowing me to take your idea and put them in the prints. So thank you. If you're listening out there, it has really boosted my creativity, you know, the whole idea. So I can't take credit for that. And and so this particular print is a quarry print. So it's a Workscapes, of course. And I was walking up the hills with my friend Jennifer by the quarry, and there were this is the quarry here in, I think it's Hilliard, Dublin area. There's a quarry there, and I thought it would, you know, that's why we went there, is I thought it would be interesting to see the work, that Workscape, the work side. And that's where the idea to add the water came from. So because not only was I actually really enjoying the beauty of that landscape of the quarry, and I heard they're turning it into a park.
Yes, I've heard that too.
But also I was looking at aerial views of quarries because I was looking for more quarries in the area on Google Maps. And so, you know, you often look at a quarry from above. So I've really been enjoying this perspective of the trucks that's kind of from above. A little bit of a three-quarter view from above. So that's how this one evolved. I printed it at Phoenix Rising. I joined because they have a bigger press than we do at the Culture Arts Center, and also because they have wonderful classes as well. You know, it's great for enrichment. As an instructor, I try to always, you know, stay on top of learning new techniques, and they have wonderful people working there. They were very helpful. And actually they have, they're part of the passport. I don't know if you know about it, but there's this passport event that's happening around town where you get a stamp. The Cultural Arts Center, at the Cultural Arts Center, you can get a little book, a passport book, and you can they'll put it like a sticker in there, and then you can get all kinds of prizes. So you can do a tour from all the galleries and around town. And I found some galleries that I didn't even know about. That was really fun. So I want to show some other things that I used in this print. Please, this is a tire from my, I can't really get it off very easily, but it's a tire from one of my kids' trucks. And I used this to make the marks on this print. I dipped it in ink, and I had all those marks of the trucks that are going through and around. So I take texture off whatever I find. So, yes. So there are 4 or 5 more prints in this series. This particular one will be at the Sarah Gormley Gallery, I believe, in December. I haven't totally decided yet, but I think it will be there. I'm trying to make new artwork now for the exhibition. I have a very short time frame to do it, so excuse me, people, if I get really busy. But I hope you'll make it out.
I imagine you would be really busy. Can't imagine it. You're amazing, Sharone. I'm glad you told me about the quarry experience, because I really can get into this and think about the quarry, and then how imaginative the color, as you brought in the color. It's amazing.
I'm having so much fun with this. I feel like it's not fair anymore. You know, it's like I'm playing in a way. Oh, this one is in the, actually, my neighbors, Sarah and David Hahn, my neighbors, they have this print in their home, and there's another one that they purchased. It's from our neighborhood. This is the arborist. He was on a maple tree just down the road. And it was just one of those scenes where, I can't wait to go home to do a print. And I just found before I found the construction sites, my favorite thing in Columbus was looking at these trees. Some of these trees are just amazing and ancient. And if you walk by them, I think especially in the evening, there's this wonderful, wonderful fragrance that comes around, just wafts by. So I do love my neighborhood, and I feel sad when you have to take part of a tree down, but this one this tree is doing well. You just need to take one branch that was over a garage, and I think we have an amazing tree at the Cultural Arts Center. Do you know the name of it? Right over the staff parking?
No. We should check into it, huh?
Oh, it's...
Name of it.
It is a cool tree.
It's what?
I was just saying it is a cool tree, but I'm not sure the name of it.
Yeah, and it has this vine going around it. And I'm not sure if it doesn't seem to hurt the tree. So these are the things around me. So, that's the other thing. It just happened to be work sites. It could have been, I could have done a whole series on trees. I just felt attracted, I think, to the color, and the people and the movement. But in a way, this is the city we're around. So
yes,
yeah.
And
this one, I used actual wires to print. If you look at those lines yes, that was one of the first ones I used. I took copper wire and I inked it up and embossed it directly into the paper. And I'm adding a little bit more vegetation now in my newest prints. So it's good to see this one again, even though I could visit it, my neighbor's house. But it's good to see it just to remember what I did. And it's interesting that I did this one a while back, but I did the print yesterday. I did a tree, and it's so similar. It's like it must be by the same person. Okay, yeah. Yes, we can. She also sent me a picture of that one. she has sent me a wonderful picture of it in her home. So yeah, it's so nice to see where they are. So if you can see it on my website someplace. So. This one was very interesting. This is by my home. This was a neurological center. Why is it interesting? Because I had two customers fighting over it.
Ah.
Yeah, that hasn't happened, doesn't happen very often, but it's nice when it happens. So it was purchased during the show by my student Aubrey and her husband Mark, and they still have to send me a picture of it in their home if you're listening. And at the show, one of my friends came to the show, and she couldn't decide what she wanted to buy, and she went home and she thought about it, and she said, "I want that one." I said, "Well, I'm sorry, it's sold." So I had to create another one, and I never create the same, but I did get in touch with Mark and Audrey to see if she agreed, that there would be some kind of a similar print coming, very pretty similar print in the world. And she said, yeah, it's fine. She was very generous. And she said, well, I guess they have good taste. So I took it, that was nice to have, as I said, to have people fighting over a print. And well, not literally, but what I did, and this is the first time I've ever done that, is to do a print that's similar to my print in another way. And it was quite a challenge. I hadn't realized that. So now it has a new owner. So her name is Ayala Wallach, and her mother bought it for her, and because she thought it would be a nice memory from around our home. So this is the neurological center. They used to live down the street too, and that is next to Riverside Hospital. Do you know it? The neurological center.
Okay. Yes.
And this is when it was being built. And this one, again, I have to give credit to my husband, because if you look up close, Lindsay, can you zoom in way to those figures in there? Do you see them?
Yes.
He decided to add those little workers there.
Oh.
And that started a whole new element in my artwork of these miniature figures.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. So they're working away while we're driving in our car, and they have lives of their own. And then just recently, Gisela, who is an art patron in Columbus, she's been sending me pictures of the construction by our house, and we're calling them Lego men, the little Lego men. So I have a collection of little Lego men now. Oh. It's really, really fun. And again, there's that wire in the sky. There are certain elements that repeat in each of my images. And this is the only one, except for one more, I have one more, that has an airplane in it. Do you see at the top? Yeah, because my husband added that. So I can't really copy things that he does, right? It's not fair. Airplanes are his domain. So I would love to add some more, but I think I'll add some birds so he doesn't get upset with me. And so I had to add one.
The two orange figures. What are the two orange figures there?
Those are they call barricades. Those are the lights that they put by the side of the road. And the netting there, what I used was a potato netting. You know how the sacks of potatoes have netting?
Yeah.
So I inked it up, and you know how that's like a caution netting they put so you don't enter a Workscapes worksite. So that's what I used. For that. So I take all kinds of found objects and I play with them.
I'm going to take a whole different attitude toward those orange barrels. You've given it so much beauty.
I didn't understand the name though. A barricade, because the barricade I envision as something else, but they told me that's the technical term, so I'll go with it.
Okay, that's great.
We can continue. I'm going to take a little drink, sorry. But it is Conversations in Coffee.
I was just going to say.
So, I don't only do construction sites. I've been thinking of ways to conservation. So this one is called the Conservation Project. And here we're trying to take something ancient, which there's a temple on the one side, and there's a sacred mound on the other side with trees on top. Now the trees are from the Culture Arts Center. I used found objects again to create that, because ancient trees are often places where that are considered holy sites. Where I come from, I grew up in Israel, and usually they're olive trees, ancient olive trees. And these were flowers that I printed. They're up in the studio. They are orchid cactuses, they're called. They flower once a year, each flower for one night only. And they're huge, they're about this big. Yes. Oh, and I did a whole series of flowers that as landscape. So this is the only one that has that element. What I enjoyed here is that some parts of the flower just kind of scattered along the print while I was printing, and I just left them there as for added interest. Yeah, and to create that, how are we doing on time, by the way?
It's about 10 of 1.
Oh, my heavens. So I won't go into the details of how I made this, but I'm definitely going to do another couple of prints on conservation. I think, you know, when we talk about construction, you have to realize I'm not, it's not like I am saying that construction is a wonderful thing. I'm just saying that I find an interest in it, a visual interest. I find it's inspiring to me, you know, the stories behind the workers' lives. But we do need an element of conservation and a lot more thought about what we're going to construct in this world. I mean, we do have probably over construction, especially in Columbus. You know, we need to leave open green spaces as well. Right next to my house, I took a walk this morning. There's an area that used to be a forest, and we have deer living there. And, you know, it's really been rebuilt, and it's, you know, it's sad. It's sad when you're, you know, when these nature spots are, yeah, we have to think more sustainability. And I hope in the city, I hope that it's nice that we have the parks around it. And yeah, we're lucky at the Culture Arts Center to have that little enclosure there. Where we do the weddings. It's really wonderful to have that little spot of nature in the middle of the courtyard. And you know what do we call it? The courtyard there with the trees. It's so wonderful to have that.
Yes, it is.
Right there next to the Arts Center.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a little series of smaller prints. So I wanted to have during my show, I wanted an opportunity for people that aren't art collectors to start a collection. And I created this series of little prints. And this one is in the collection of Nikolai and Kasha. I can't pronounce the last name, I'm sorry. And they bought a couple of these. And the nice thing is that when I went to the Sarah Gormley Gallery, she really loved these. And she has 3 of them in her gallery right now. So these are steel and enamel plates that I transferred a sketch that I made onto, and they are baked in the image is fused into the plate in the kiln, in an enameling kiln at 1500 degrees. And it's really a fun process. And even the signature is also, it's fused into the print. So these are small, they're 6 by 6, and yeah, lots of fun.
You've caught the spirit of the worker and looking at the instructions as the worker is bent over reading something, seeing what's next. That's amazing. I really like that combination of having to follow something to know what it is they need to do next.
And this one is also in the collection of Nikolai and Kasha. And then my son fell in love with it because it reminded him of a sailor up on a ship, climbing the mast. So I made him one that's kind of similar, but of course not the same. Yeah. So he has it in his room now at college. So also 2 people fighting over the same print. I enjoy that. So this is a way of combining my printmaking and enameling as well. So this has really informed my art processes, and that's why I am now offering printmaking and mixed media, so that people will be aware that at the Art Center we have so many studios and so many different techniques that we can offer.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we can continue because we have very little time, right? We're supposed to end at 1 o'clock.
Yes, and if I could just have a moment to make an announcement about the next Conversations in Coffee. Why don't I do that now, and then we can take the time right till 1 o'clock. In October 14th, we're going to have our guest as Karen Dahl, who will be joining us to share her work in our main gallery, entitled Art and Jazz. Her work includes abstract oil paintings accompanied by the sounds of professional musicians. So we will be with each other October 14th at noon by Zoom. All right, Sharone.
So this particular print, it's an abandoned cement silos. They're on, maybe you've driven by them on West Main. I call it also reclaimed because the bird has reclaimed it. This is.
There is
and then I decided to add a ship down there in the corner that wasn't in the original scene, but I have artistic license, right? So, yeah, we can continue to another one. I'm going to see if there's a, please continue. Oh, this one is in the, we need to mention this one's in the collection of Charles Loeb. I think, am I pronouncing it correctly? Loeb Electric? Loeb, L-O-E-B. He has an art collection in his main office. So he added this one to the collection. Yeah, those are wires as well. Yeah. And this one is in the collection of Becky and Mike Bowers that had the Sorensens. She's the daughter of Phil Sorensen, who had the exhibition at the Art Center. Yeah. So we can continue. I want to see if there's one more. This is a new one we don't need to talk about. I thought I had, yeah. Okay, this one, I think the next one. Yeah, just, let's stay with this one as the last one, right? How many minutes do we have?
We have about
this one seemed
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Oh, we still have time.
Yeah.
Okay. Because this one seemed to be a favorite. So I just thought that I should show it. It has a lot more enamel than the other ones, but it has that plate I don't have an example right here, but it has that plate that edges. Do you see the edges there underneath the cranes? Yes. That's kind of a reoccurring theme in my prints because I happen to have plates that have that edge. So I just kind of integrated it into my artwork somehow. So yeah, that's another that goes, it's like a thread that goes through all the artwork. Here I left the wires. That's a little bit different. If you can take a really close-up view, there's actual copper wire that's left in there. So it's different from the other one with the arborist. It's not embossed. I actually left the wire in there. And then I painted on top a little bit with some ink because it was a little bit too, you don't really see the wires that clearly in the sky. So we can move on. So this is one of the ones where that's the one I was looking for. This one is in the collection of Marie and Bill Cross, and they bought it after the show. They, again, couldn't decide which one they wanted, and they chose this one. There's some glitch there in the image. That's okay. Anyways, yeah, that works. But this image was an older print that I had made that hadn't found a story yet. And it found it during the pandemic when I added this this compact roller to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, this one is not huge, but again, you can't see the layering. There's the truck that's separate, like this piece here. Then there are these wires that are embossed deep inside to the paper, and then there's the surface design. So there's a series of 3 of these. I think another one of them is going to be in the Sarah Gormley Gallery. It was on my postcard, the one that was on my postcard for the show that was at the Art Center. Okay, is there any more that we can talk about? Let's see. Yes, that one. That is one of my favorites. No one else has liked it as much as me. That's okay. It's still available for sale. And this one, my son sent me a picture of the Notre Dame de Paris. He sent me a picture of the cathedral, and he said, "Mom, the rose windows have been saved." And I was, in the picture were these firemen, because he knew I would enjoy. Yeah, it's really nice. People have been sending me construction sites and pictures from all over the world.
Oh,
yeah. I think I'm going to start expanding beyond Columbus, just like in this one. Why not? It's universal, no?
As a child, did you see? As a child, did you see construction growing up? How was your imagination so taken?
I think it was more, it was something that evolved. And I think when my son was a child, not my son, sorry, the trucks are from my son, but when my kid was a child, I think we saw a lot of construction sites, definitely. So what I want to say about this one is that something happened here. You were asking about the magic. And there are these shapes that were decorations on the cathedral. And they, when I created them again out of these parts that you see, these are just separate parts, like on the, I'm sorry, I'm pointing, but you can't see where I'm pointing. Separate parts that on those plates, they turned into something else. So I see them as nuns. If you can point down at the corner there, you see at the corner, both sides.
Yes.
Yes, there and on the other side, they looked like nuns to me. And I think, if you're at a cathedral, you want this suggestion of nuns. And at the top, those three, do you see the three up there? They could be monks, a circle of monks. So, and then there's this halo around the rose windows. Do you see the halo that happened? That's was a glitch in the print. So I didn't intend that, and I definitely welcome it. So do you have any more questions, Ellen, before we sign off? It looks like we're pretty much done.
I say, do you enjoy teaching?
Teaching. I haven't taught beginners in quite a while. And this is the first session that I'm taking beginners again.
Yes.
And it is wonderful. I have thought a lot about it, and I think I'm going to, I'm changing my curriculum now. I'm starting a little bit slower. And I really, I think people really need that time, that fostering creativity thing happens over time. And I really have to explain to people, it's not something your results won't happen in a day. So there's a quote by Ira Glass that I often offer, where he talks about his own process and how long it took him in his creativity and how much practice it takes. And I really want to tell my students again and again, just keep practicing. If it's 10 minutes a day,
wonderful.
If it's, just even 10 minutes, and then you'll see results down the line. And they'll thank me in half a year that I didn't let them have immediate results, because often they want to have these immediate results, as adults, you're uncomfortable with starting with new beginning.
Well, we thank you for teaching us. This was an amazing call to expand our imagination, It was
Thank you
beautiful.
so much for having me.
Sharone Putter, thank you.
Thank you.